Welcome to Massive Beers. My name is Matt. We do the beer stuff here. Very excited for today's beer. Lagunitas, born yesterday. This beer had me upset. Very upset because I look forward to this release every single year. It's one of my favorite releases. I think, Lagunitas does a different job, but a very good job of it every year. It used to be like a born yesterday thing. Like, I think you used to get to stores in a couple days. Now it's more the ingredients are born yesterday, and I just couldn't find this beer. Honestly, it was just an absolute 100% no-show in New Jersey, at least as far as I could see. I've searched high and low. And even I dipped in a couple places in the PA, because I know they got it in PA. Still couldn't find it. Lo and behold, I actually had to go a little bit deeper in the PA, and I found me some. So that made me very happy inside. So now we're going to review it, see how that works. Lagunitas born yesterday. It's their fresh hop ale, 7.2% alcohol by volume, farm to brewery in under 24 hours. This has about 2 months on it. Okay, so keep that in mind, but it's Lagunitas. They make really shelf-stable stuff. And the weird part is it actually says here, it says 10/2/23. I assume that's the bottle on date. It's not a Julian date on here. I always assumed just Lagunitas was always going to be forever the Julian date. No, there's an actual date on here, so how about that stuff? And on the side here, story time, as they were to do, and they still do. It says, if we could bottle the smell of harvest time in Yakima Valley, Washington, we would. Hell, we try every year. Today we got the next best thing born yesterday. We see once hops are harvested, the flavor clock starts ticking. So we rush a select bunch of whole cone wet hops on refrigerated trucks straight to Lagunitas. In less than 24 hours, they arrive and immediately drop into this brew via a stupid, with 2 O's, custom-built contraption, injecting all of their precious aromatics. Special delivery indeed. Congratulations. It's a beer. Let's do it. Let's do it to it. So, 2 months to the day, actually. But again, I think we're going to be aight. So we'll see what's what. Pour the whole thing in there. Label-wise, I like it. I like the older labels, but this one ain't too shabby. It's what Lagunitas does. So we're not going to get too whatever about it. And it looks like a wet hop IPA. I mean, it has a haziness to it, that kind of West Coast haziness. And by that, I mean, it has a little bit more maltier color to it. But that's what you expect from Lagunitas beers, let alone just a wet hop IPA. They tend to skew a little bit darker like this. They can be all different varying stuff. Wet hop doesn't necessarily has a style. You can be wet hop this, that, and the other thing. But more often than not, when it's kind of a wet hop IPA traditional, this is kind of where it looks like coloration-wise. So a little amber color, soft haze to it, just barely off whitehead. We're off to a good start. Let's get a nose. Smells awesome. It smells awesome, and there's something here I'm going to have a hard time putting my finger on, and I'm going to get very, very upset because I'll probably think about what it is after I stop recording. Anyway, hops. Star of the show here. There's a decent malt base to it. Don't get me wrong, but hops at the start of the show here, but it comes off very, not resinous, not like, wet hoppiness tends to have this kind of like icky, sticky, but not in a super danky, piney way, more in a little bit kind of like keefy, oily kind of way. And here, I'm almost getting like a fruit medley in a little bit of a ranky way. It reminds me almost like, man, that's the thing, I can't put my finger on it. It's almost like an herbaceous, slightly medicinal herbaceous kind of apricot juice thing going on here, which I think is very, very cool. Just quite a bit different than what I was expecting. I was expecting a little bit more resinous, a little bit more classic West Coast, a little bit more, obviously they can use all kinds of different hops. They just talk about a wet hop IPA. I don't even think they call it the actual hops here. But it has this really cool fruity medicinal rankiness to it in a very fun way. And it's just that little dollop of sweetness that's what gets me to the fruit portion of the show. That's what gets me to the apricot juice. So it's very stone fruity for me. with this cool kind of like weedy but medicinal weedy kind of portion of the show. Really cool nose. I think it's gonna come off sweet, not overly sweet, but sweet. 7% alcohol by volume. It's gonna be a sweeter beer. It should at least be a little bit sweeter beer. I'm really curious to see how these hops play in the taste. So we're just gonna jump right in. Cheers, y'all. Okay. A little bit more of that resinous, a decent more, I should say, of that resinous ranky in the taste. You're still getting that apricot juice here thing. Very, very organic, almost like an apricot added juice kind of thing going on, which has me kind of all kinds of weirded out because I dig this flavor profile. But there's a little bit of like medicinal. When I say medicinal, I don't mean it in a negative way, like an off flavor. I think it more of herbaceous, Ricola, cough, like organic cough droppy. Not minty, not eucalyptusy, but there's this little bit of kind of botanical, is probably a better way to put it, ness to it. On top of that cool, keefy, weedy, ranky, bit more resinous in the taste kind of thing. Mouth feels really nice on it. It has this softness to it. Softness akin to almost like if I'm trying to relate it, it's not necessarily like Belgian pale ale or just a nice hazy pale ale kind of mouthfeel to it as opposed to a big, huge turbid. Hazy. It lends itself to being a bit more drinkable. You're drinking something of oomph. You're drinking something at 7%. The way the beer hits, the sweetness of the beer, the impact of the beer, you're like, okay, this drinks like something at 7%, but it goes down way easier than that 7%. So it's a fun little trick. And I think we're done and done here. It lingers on your tongue. That stone fruit, slightly botanical resinousness just lingers there. There's a dryness to it, so it's sweet, but it finishes a little bit dry, so it's decently attenuated. Makes you want to go back for a little bit more. That bittering just doesn't really let up, but it's not overpowering. It's not hyper aggressive. Quite a bit different to what I remember Born Yesterday being in previous years, and it's changed every year. I kind of alluded to that in the lead-in, but this is probably the biggest departure from what I'm used to getting in Born Yesterday, but not in a negative way, in a very fun way. 2 months in, not sure what it drank like hyper fresh, but what I can say is it's still drinking fantastic. So I don't see any problems drinking this beer until next year, at least. Let's put it that way. I think it's fantastic. I think it's fun. I think it's different than what it usually is, but different can be fun too. Good job, Lagunitas. I am a fan. And I'm glad I found it, because it was honestly a super bummer for me not to find this beer, but that has been remedied, obviously. So there you go. Is it one of the better wet hop beers that I've had? It's like, yes, Mount Rushmore status, probably worthy. Let's put it that way. In value and availability, it's Lagunitas. What is it, $12 for a sixer of this or something? But availability, apparently in New Jersey, you can suck it, and you have to go out in the PA or somewhere else to find it. Leave you with if you like what we like this. If you like Born Yesterday, but you want their take, their interpretation on their beer with a different hop profile, this has to be a different recipe, has to be a different hop profile, what they typically use, but it's still the same spirit and still damn tasty. So if you dig that kind of combination, that mixture, a new cut on an old-ish kind of recipe, you'll dig this. Lagunitas, have you been to the breweries? Have you had their beers? Have you had this beer? Are you a fan of the series? Have you had all the other ones? And have you had this? And then what are your thoughts on the difference between the way this drinks and the previous iterations? That's all we want to know. Well, we want to know everything, but that's the key point. Down there, let's talk about it. So hopefully you enjoyed the review. Hopefully you're enjoying a little bit of Born Yesterday. Hope to see you next time. Cheers, y'all.